Wednesday, June 17th, 2026. Today's World News Headline Summary. 1. CNN. 1/1/2026. FIFA World Cup kicks off amid geopolitical tensions. The 2026 FIFA World Cup has officially kicked off, jointly hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The opening match featured Mexico taking on South Africa, drawing the attention of millions of viewers globally to the highly anticipated sports spectacle. However, the tournament is currently facing severe backlash over sky-high ticket prices and tourist visas being systematically rejected for fans and officials from certain nations. FIFA President Gianni Infantino addressed these mounting concerns, asserting that organizers are working closely with the American administration to establish a speedy visa procedure. Despite the inherent excitement surrounding the games, escalating geopolitical tensions in the Middle East are continuously threatening to overshadow the unifying nature of this global event. Jointly. Adverb. 공동으로, 연대적으로. The new research facility will be jointly funded by the two corporations. Spectacle. Noun. 장관, 구경거리, 행사. The opening ceremony of the Olympics was a magnificent spectacle. Backlash. Noun. 사회적, 정치적, 강한 반발. The controversial law faced severe backlash from human rights organizations. Systematically. Adverb. 체계적으로, 조직적으로. The data was systematically collected over a period of 10 years. Mount. Verb. 증가하다, 고조되다. Pressures began to mount as the project deadline approached. Assert. Verb. 주장하다, 확고히 하다. The defense lawyer asserted that his client was entirely innocent. Procedure. Noun. 절차, 순서. All employees must follow the standard safety procedure during an emergency. Inherent. Adjective. 내재하는, 본질적인. Every business investment involves an inherent risk of financial loss. Escalate. Verb. 확대되다, 악화되다. The minor border dispute quickly escalated into a full-scale armed conflict. Overshadow. Verb. 그늘을 드리우다, 무색하게 만들다. His recent scandal completely overshadowed his brilliant political achievements. 시사용어 해설. Geopolitical tensions. 지정학적 긴장. 지리적 위치, 자원, 국경 문제 등으로 인해 국가 간에 발생하는 정치적 및 군사적 대립 상태를 의미한다. 이는 단순한 물리적 충돌을 넘어 글로벌 경제와 무역 경로에 막대한 파급력을 미친다. 1-2. U.S. and Iran signal interim peace deal ahead of G7. The United States and Iran have indicated that a comprehensive memorandum of understanding is set to be signed in Geneva this Friday. This historic agreement aims to officially end the hostilities that have persisted between the two nations, providing a framework for long-term regional stability. A central component of the tentative deal includes the immediate reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and the complete lifting of the naval blockade against Iran. Anticipation surrounding the agreement caused a noticeable dip in global oil prices as markets responded positively to the prospect of unimpeded shipping routes. The diplomatic breakthrough aligns closely with U.S. President Donald Trump's arrival in France for the G7 summit, where the peace deal will undoubtedly dominate multilateral discussions. Vocabulary. Comprehensive. Adjective. 포괄적인, 종합적인. The committee published a comprehensive report on climate change impacts. Hostility. Noun. 적대감, 적대행위. Diplomatic efforts are required to end the ongoing hostility between the factions. Persist. Verb. 집요하게 계속하다, 지속되다. If the symptoms persist for more than a week, consult a physician immediately. Tentative. Adjective. 잠정적인, 머뭇거리는. The two companies have reached a tentative agreement regarding the merger. Blockade. Noun. 봉쇄, 차단. The military forces established a naval blockade to restrict supply routes. Anticipation. Noun. 예상, 기대. The crowd waited in eager anticipation for the final results to be announced. Dip. Noun. 하락, 감소. 동사, 살짝 담그다. Analysts noted a slight dip in consumer spending during the last quarter. Unimpeded. Adjective. 가로막히지 않은, 방해받지 않는. The new trade policy ensures the unimpeded flow of essential goods. Breakthrough. Noun. 돌파구, 큰 발전. Scientists have achieved a major breakthrough in cancer treatment research. Multilateral. Adjective. 다자간의, 다국적인. Environmental protection requires multilateral cooperation among all developed nations. 시사 용어 해설. 네이버 블록케이드, 해상 봉쇄. 전시나 외교적 충돌 상황에서 적국의 항구나 해안을 군함 등으로 둘러싸 외부로부터의 물자나 병력의 해상 이동을 강제로 차단하는 군사적 조치를 뜻한다. 113. SpaceX makes debut on NASDAQ, making Musk first trillionaire. SpaceX has successfully made its debut on the NASDAQ exchange, completing what is now recognized as the largest initial public offering, IPO, in financial history. The highly anticipated listing generated massive investor enthusiasm, driving the company's stock price to unprecedented levels on its very first day of trading. Following the dramatic surge in valuation, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk has officially become the world's first ever trillionaire, solidifying his dominance in the global tech industry. Financial analysts suggest that this monumental event underscores the immense economic potential of the commercial space sector and satellite communications. The historic IPO is expected to trigger a new wave of investments focused on aerospace innovations and extraterrestrial exploration technologies. Vocabulary. Debut. Noun. Debut. 첫 등장. The promising startup made its impressive debut in the tech market last year. Enthusiasm. Noun. 열광, 열정. The new initiative was met with great enthusiasm by the local community. Unprecedented. Adjective. 전례 없는, 유례 없는. The region experienced an unprecedented level of economic growth this decade. Surge. Noun. 급증, 급등. There has been a sudden surge in demand for electric vehicles globally. Valuation. Noun. 가치평가, 평가액. The startup's market valuation doubled after securing the latest funding round. Solidify. Verb. 확고히 하다, 굳히다. The successful contract helped to solidify the company's position in the industry. Dominance. Noun. 지배, 우위. The tech giant has maintained its absolute dominance over the search engine market. Monumental. Adjective. 기념비적인, 엄청난. The discovery of penicillin was a monumental achievement in medical history. Underscore. Verb. 강조하다, 분명히 보여주다. The recent crisis serves to underscore the importance of emergency preparedness. Extraterrestrial. Adjective. 지구 밖에, 외계에. Scientists are constantly searching for signs of extraterrestrial life in the universe. 시사 용어 해설. IPO. Initial Public Offering. 기업 공개. 비상장 기업이 증권시장에 공식적으로 주식을 처음 상장하여 일반 대중과 투자자들에게 주식을 판매하고 자본을 조달하는 과정을 의미한다.
2. BBC 21. Is Israel collapsing a U.S.-Iran deal over Lebanon? The United States and Iran are attempting to finalize a tentative agreement to end their ongoing conflict, but significant sticking points remain unresolved. High-ranking officials indicate that it is still too early to determine exactly when the two sides will officially sign the deal. One major obstacle is the escalating wave of Israeli strikes targeting Hezbollah infrastructure in southern Lebanon. Iran strictly insists that any comprehensive peace arrangement must also cover and protect Lebanon from further military actions. However, Israel firmly maintains that it reserves the right to continue neutralizing the security threat posed by Hezbollah, a stance that severely threatens to derail the fragile diplomatic talks. Vocabulary. Finalize. Verb. 마무리 짓다, 완결하다. The delegates will finalize the terms of the treaty by tomorrow morning. Unresolved. Adjective. 미해결해, 풀리지 않은. Several key issues remain unresolved despite months of intense negotiations. Obstacle. Noun. 장애물, 방해. A lack of sufficient funding is the primary obstacle to our new research. Infrastructure. Noun. 기반시설, infra. The severe earthquake heavily damaged the city's essential infrastructure. Insist. Verb. 고집하다, 강력히 주장하다. The manager insisted on reviewing the documents before the final approval. Arrangement. Noun. 합의, 준비, 체제. The two departments came to a mutually beneficial arrangement. Reserve. Verb. 예약하다, 권리를 보유하다. The hotel administration reserves the right to refuse service to anyone. Neutralize. Verb. 무력화하다, 상쇄시키다. The troops managed to completely neutralize the enemy's defense mechanisms. Derail. Verb. 탈선시키다, 계획을 틀어지게 하다. The unexpected political scandal could severely derail his presidential campaign. Fragile. Adjective. 부서지기 쉬운, 취약한. The economic recovery is still highly fragile and susceptible to external shocks. Sticking point. 난제, 걸림돌. 협상이나 대화의 과정에서 양측의 입장이 팽팽하게 맞서 쉽게 합의에 이르지 못하게 만드는 핵심 쟁점이나 문제를 가리키는 표현이다. 2.2. Ivanka Trump's island resort project sparks mass protest in Albania. A controversial luxury resort project linked to Ivanka Trump has sparked mass protests across Albania. The planned development aims to transform a pristine coastal island into an exclusive tourist destination to boost the local economy. However, environmental activists and local citizens are strongly opposing the initiative, arguing that it will inevitably cause irreversible damage to the region's protected marine ecosystems. Demonstrators have taken to the streets to denounce what they perceive as the exploitation of national natural heritage by foreign corporate interests. The ongoing clash highlights the complex tension between pursuing lucrative economic development and preserving critical environmental conservation areas. Vocabulary. Controversial. Adjective. 논란이 많은, 쟁점이 되는. The government introduced a highly controversial policy regarding taxation. Pristine. Adjective. 완전 새 것 같은, 자연 그대로의. The hikers discovered a pristine waterfall hidden deep within the dense forest. Exclusive. Adjective. 독점적인, 배타적인. The club offers exclusive membership privileges to its VIP clients. Inevitably. Adverb. 불가피하게, 필연적으로. The rapid population growth will inevitably lead to increased energy consumption. Irreversible. Adjective. 되돌릴 수 없는, 불가역적인. Prolonged exposure to toxic chemicals can cause irreversible damage to the lungs. Ecosystem. Noun. 생태계. Coral reefs form a highly complex and delicate marine ecosystem. Denounce. Verb. 맹렬히 비난하다, 고발하다. Human rights groups openly denounce the regime's oppressive actions. Exploitation. Noun. 착취, 자원의 개발. The documentary exposed the cruel exploitation of child labor in the industry. Heritage. Noun. 유산, 전통. The historical monument is a vital part of the nation's cultural heritage. Lucrative. Adjective. 수익성이 좋은, 돈이 되는. Real estate investment can be an extremely lucrative business endeavor. Corporate interests. 기업이, 자본이. 기업이나 거대 자본이 수익을 극대화하기 위해 추구하는 목표나 이권. 종종 공공의 이익이나 환경보호와 대립하는 개념으로 사용된다.
2-3. U.S. political divide sharpens as Trump comments on inflation. The political divide in the United States continues to sharpen as economic policies take center stage in partisan debates. Recently, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker signed a nearly $56 billion budget that includes significant new business taxes to support state initiatives. Amid these fiscal developments, President Donald Trump sparked intense controversy with his recent remark, stating that he loves the inflation. Democratic leaders quickly capitalized on this statement, fiercely criticizing the administration for allegedly ignoring the severe financial burdens placed on ordinary working-class families. The stark contrast in economic philosophies highlights how inflation management has become a highly weaponized issue leading up to the upcoming elections. Vocabulary. Sharpen, verb. 날카로워지다, 분명해지다. The economic crisis served to sharpen the differences between the two political parties. Partisan, adjective. 당파적인, 편파적인. The bill failed to pass the Senate due to strict partisan divisions. Initiative, noun. 계획, 주도권. The local government launched a new initiative to reduce plastic waste. Fiscal, adjective. 국가 재정에, 회계에. The country needs structural reforms to overcome its massive fiscal deficit. Controversy, noun. 논란, 논쟁. The referee's questionable decision caused enormous controversy among the fans. Capitalize on, 동사구. 뭐뭐를 이용하다, 기회로 삼다. The company aims to capitalize on the growing trend of remote working. Fiercely, adverb. 맹렬하게, 사납게. The competitors fought fiercely to secure the top position in the market. Allegedly, adverb. 이른바, 주장하는 바에 따르면. The executive was fired for allegedly manipulating the financial records. Stark, adjective. 극명한, 삭막한. There is a stark contrast between the rich and the poor in this neighborhood. Weaponize, verb. 무기화하다. The dictator attempted to weaponize food supplies against the rebellious regions.
3. ABC Australia. 3-1. $368 billion AUKUS deal labeled absurd as scrutiny intensifies. Australia's staggering $368 billion AUKUS submarine pact is currently facing intense scrutiny and deep internal political divisions. Defense Minister Richard Marles recently disclosed that Australia will acquire 3 second-hand Virginia-class nuclear-powered submarines from the United States, amending the originally proposed arrangement. While Marles fiercely defended the acquisition as a fundamentally good financial deal for national security, critics and crossbenchers have sharply labeled the massive expenditure on aging vessels as utterly absurd. The rapidly growing political dissent and widespread public skepticism have ultimately led to the launch of a rigorous 5-month public inquiry. This investigation demands greater administrative transparency regarding the complex and incredibly expensive trilateral security agreement. Vocabulary. Staggering. Adjective. 너무 엄청나서 충격적인, 믿기 어려운. The total cost of the ambitious space project reached a staggering $50 billion. Scrutiny. Noun. 정밀조사, 철저한 검토. The mayor's controversial decision is now under intense public scrutiny. Disclose. Verb. 밝히다, 폭로하다. The company refused to disclose the exact details of the confidential contract. Acquire. Verb. 획득하다, 매입하다. The massive corporation successfully acquired a smaller rival to expand its market share. Amend. Verb. 법안, 계약을 수정하다, 개정하다. The committee gathered to amend the outdated regulations in the official handbook. Expenditure. Noun. 지출, 비용. The government must find creative ways to reduce its unnecessary public expenditure.
aging. Adjective. 나이 드는, 노후화되는. The country urgently needs to replace its severely aging railway infrastructure. Absurd. Adjective. 터무니없는, 황당한. It is completely absurd to expect flawless results without any prior preparation. Dissent. Noun. 반대, 이. Authoritarian regimes typically do not tolerate any form of political dissent. Skepticism. Noun. 회의론, 의심. The scientists' groundbreaking claims were initially met with profound skepticism. 시사 용어 해설. AUKUS, 호주, 영국, 미국, 세 나라가 결성한 인도 태평양 지역의 3국 안보 협의체. 이 동맹의 핵심 목표는 호주가 핵 추진 잠수함을 보유할 수 있도록 미국과 영국이 군사 기술을 이전하는 것이다.
3-2. Call for compassionate plan for visa overstayers. Sustainable Population Australia, SPA, is urgently calling on the federal government to implement a compassionate and highly practical plan for the estimated 77,700 visa overstayers currently living unlawfully in the country. Experts argue that individuals whose visas have expired should neither be permitted to remain indefinitely nor be completely abandoned to face homelessness and severe exploitation. SPA strongly advocates for the substantial expansion and active promotion of the existing Return and Reintegration Assistance Program. This strategic initiative provides eligible non-citizens with essential logistical support to return safely to their home countries with dignity. Advocates emphasize that a modest initial investment in facilitating voluntary returns could ultimately prevent much larger enforcement and welfare expenditures in the future. Vocabulary. Compassionate. Adjective. 동정심 많은, 인도적인. The nurse was known for her highly compassionate care of elderly patients. Overstayer. Noun. 체류기한 초과자. The immigration office is strictly tracking down visa overstayers in the capital. Unlawfully. Adverb. 불법적으로. He was arrested for unlawfully entering a restricted military zone. Indefinitely. Adverb. 무기한으로. The outdoor concert has been postponed indefinitely due to the severe storm. Exploitation. Noun. 착취, 악용. The new labor law aims to protect vulnerable workers from ruthless exploitation. Advocate. Verb. 지지하다, 옹호하다. The organization heavily advocates for fundamental human rights across the globe. Substantial. Adjective. 상당한, 실질적인. She made a substantial financial contribution to the local charity foundation. Reintegration. Noun. 재통합, 사회복귀. The program entirely focuses on the successful reintegration of former prisoners into society. Eligible. Adjective. 자격이 있는, 적격에. Only full-time employees are formally eligible to receive the health insurance benefits. Facilitate. Verb. 촉진하다, 용이하게 하다. The newly built bridge will greatly facilitate trade between the two neighboring cities. Research term sol. Return and Reintegration Assistance Program. 귀환 및 재통합 지원 프로그램. 불법 체류자나 망명 신청에 실패한 외국인이 본국으로 자발적으로 돌아가고자 할 때 항공권이나 초기 정착금 등을 지원하여 강제 추방의 부작용을 줄이는 인도적 이민 정책 제도. Number 3. Elon Musk criticized for stoking anti-immigrant riots in Belfast. Tech billionaire Elon Musk has come under intense fire for allegedly utilizing his social media platform, X, to deliberately stoke anti-immigrant riots in Belfast, Northern Ireland. As far-right mobs launched violent attacks on properties housing asylum seekers, Musk gleefully predicted societal collapse and continuously urged citizens to forcefully oppose immigration. Critics argue that his inflammatory rhetoric actively emboldens radical nativist factions, effectively pouring gasoline on an already volatile socio-political situation. In response to the unrest, anti-racism organizations have staged massive counter-protests to push back against the xenophobic violence and Musk's particularly appalling digital endorsements. The deeply concerning intersection of unmoderated, immense digital influence and real-world physical violence has sparked urgent calls for stricter social media accountability. Vocabulary. Stoke. Verb. 감정불길을 부추기다, 돋우다. The politician's controversial speech only served to stoke public anger further. Mob. Noun. 폭력을 휘두르는 군중, 폭도.
An angry mob gathered fiercely outside the embassy to protest the decision. Asylum seeker, 명사구, 망명 신청자. The humanitarian camp was built to safely provide shelter for asylum seekers. Gleefully, adverb, 유쾌하게, 고소해하며. The children gleefully unwrapped their brightly colored Christmas presents. Inflammatory, adjective, 선동적인, 분노를 유발하는. He was heavily fined for publishing highly inflammatory remarks on his blog. Embolden, verb, 대담하게 만들다, 용기를 주다. His initial success served to embolden him to take even bigger financial risks. Volatile, adjective, 변동성이 큰, 불안정한. The stock market remains highly volatile due to the ongoing political uncertainty. Xenophobic, adjective, 외국인 혐오의. The organization is dedicated to fiercely fighting against xenophobic discrimination. Appalling, adjective, 끔찍한, 형편없는. The living conditions in the overcrowded refugee camp are absolutely appalling. Accountability, noun, 책임, 책무. The new legislation strictly demands greater accountability from large corporations. 시사 용어 해설, pogrom, 포코롱. 본래 러시아 제국 시절 유대인에 대한 조직적인 학살을 뜻하는 단어였으나 현대에 와서는 특정 인종이나 종교 집단, 이민자 등을 향해 다수 군중이 벌이는 폭력적이고 파괴적인 공격 행위를 통칭하는 단어로 쓰인다.
4. The Korea Times. 4.1. Virtual Taekwondo officially added to 2026 Asian Games. Virtual Taekwondo is officially heading to the Asian Games, marking a major, transformative milestone for the digital sports discipline. World Taekwondo proudly announced that the highly innovative, technology-driven format has been formally added to the official program for the Aichi Nagoya 2026 Asian Games. Competitors engage in matches wearing advanced VR headsets and precise motion sensors, allowing real-time tracking technology to instantly translate their physical strikes into a dynamic virtual arena. This completely non-contact environment effectively removes traditional martial arts barriers, such as weight class, age, and gender. By focusing primarily on technique and speed rather than raw physical force, Virtual Taekwondo creates a fundamentally inclusive structure where diverse athletes can compete on completely even terms. Vocabulary. Transformative. Adjective. 변화시키는, 혁신적인. The new educational policy had a completely transformative effect on the students. Milestone. Noun. 중요한 이정표, 획기적인 사건. The successful moon landing was a monumental milestone in human history. Discipline. Noun. 학문, 스포츠의 분야, 훈련. She's a leading expert in the rigorous academic discipline of sociology. Translate. Verb. 번역하다, 결과로 변화되다. Hard work doesn't always automatically translate into financial success. Arena. Noun. 경기장, 무대. The skilled gladiators fought bravely in the ancient Roman arena. Non-contact. Adjective. 비접촉에. Tennis is widely considered a safe and popular non-contact sport. Barrier. Noun. 장벽, 장애물. The language difference can be a significant barrier to effective global communication. Raw. Adjective. 가공되지 않은, 원초적인. The factory primarily imports raw materials to manufacture these specific goods. Inclusive. Adjective. 포용적인, 모든 것을 포함하는. Our multinational company aims to build a truly inclusive workplace culture. Even terms. 명사구, 대등한 조건. Both rival teams competed fiercely on even terms throughout the entire match. 시사용어 해설. Virtual reality, VR, 가상현실. 컴퓨터 소프트웨어를 통해 시각, 청각 등 감각을 완벽히 모방하여 사용자가 마치 실제 다른 공간에 있는 것처럼 상호작용하게 만드는 기술. 최근 단순 게임을 넘어 스포츠, 의료, 군사훈련 등의 광범위하게 도입되고 있다. 4.2. Big Mac shock in Mexico. A reporter's World Cup reality. A striking report highlighting the extreme Big Mac shock in Mexico has shed light on the harsh economic reality facing visitors attending the 2026 FIFA World Cup. A South Korean reporter detailed a deeply frustrating experience after arriving in Guadalajara, where a seemingly simple meal of tacos at a local mall resulted in an exorbitantly high bill. The unprecedented influx of international tourists has drastically exacerbated local inflation, driving everyday prices to astronomical levels. Millions of enthusiastic football fans who traveled globally are now heavily reeling from the severe sticker shock, spanning from basic food items to match tickets. This staggering surge in living costs serves as a grim reminder of the profound financial burdens associated with hosting major global sporting mega events. Vocabulary. Shed light on. 동사구. 을 조명하다. 밝히다. The newly discovered documents shed light on the mysterious historical event. Frustrating. Adjective. 불만스러운. 좌절감을 주는. Dealing with the endlessly slow customer service was a deeply frustrating experience. Exorbitantly. Adverb. 터무니없이. 과도하게. The luxury hotel room was exorbitantly priced during the busy peak season. Influx. Noun. 유입. 쇄도. The small town experienced a sudden influx of refugees from across the border. Exacerbate. Verb. 악화시키다. His harsh, insensitive comments only served to exacerbate the delicate situation. Astronomical. Adjective. 천문학적인. 어마어마한. The cost of building the new high-speed railway line is truly astronomical. Enthusiastic. Adjective. 열광적인. 열정적인. The enthusiastic fans waited diligently outside the stadium for several hours. Reel. Verb. 비틀거리다. 큰 충격을 받다. The financial markets are still reeling from the sudden unexpected interest rate hike. Grim. Adjective. 암울한. 우울한. The stark economic statistics paint a very grim picture for the nation's future. Profound. Adjective. 엄청난. 깊은. The professor's lecture had a profound impact on her academic career choice. Sticker shock. 가격 충격. 매장에 붙은 가격표 스티커를 보고 소비자가 깜짝 놀랄 만큼 물건값이 예상을 뛰어넘어 턱없이 비싼 상황을 묘사하는 경제 및 마케팅 은어.
4-3. Next generation of climate orators head to Songdo. The highly anticipated Korea Regional Round of the Green Project Public Speaking Championship, GPPSC 2026, is officially scheduled to take place at the University of Utah Asia campus in Songdo, Incheon. Hosted by a prominent Seoul-based education firm and sponsored by the Korea Times, the rigorous two-day tournament vigorously challenges young, aspiring speakers. Participants are explicitly required to intricately combine classical oratory skills with substantive environmental policy analysis. Rather than simply lamenting ecological decline, the prepared speech division demands that students eloquently articulate specific, actionable environmental solutions. This prestigious event provides an invaluable platform for the next generation to critically address pressing global climate crises while simultaneously honing their persuasive communication abilities. Vocabulary. Anticipated. Adjective. 기대되는, 고대하던. The release of the highly anticipated smartphone drew massive crowds to the stores. Prominent. Adjective. 저명한, 눈에 띄는. He is a prominent scientist known worldwide for his groundbreaking genetic research. Rigorous. Adjective. 엄격한, 철저한. The new recruits must undergo a significantly rigorous physical training program. Aspire. Verb. 열망하다, 염원하다. Many talented young writers earnestly aspire to publish their own novels someday. Intricately. Adverb. 복잡하게, 정교하게. The ancient wooden door was intricately carved with beautiful, detailed floral patterns. Substantive. Adjective. 실질적인, 본질적인. The diplomat firmly demanded substantive changes to the proposed peace treaty. Lament. Verb. 한탄하다, 애통해하다. The deeply disappointed fans continue to lament the team's tragic loss. Eloquent. Adjective. 유창한, 설득력 있는. She gave an incredibly eloquent speech that effectively moved the entire audience. Actionable. Adjective. 실행 가능한. The consultant provided practical, actionable advice to vastly improve overall sales. Hone. Verb. 연마하다, 갈고 닦다. The young musician practiced daily to perfectly hone his advanced piano skills. 시사 용어 해설. Substantive policy. 실질적 정책. 단순히 겉보기에만 좋은 선언적 문구가 아니라 문제의 근본 원인을 해결하기 위해 구체적인 예산, 법적 강제력, 명확한 실행 계획을 동반하는 행정적 방안을 뜻한다. 5. The Korea Herald. 5.1. OECD revises up Korea's 2026 growth outlook to 2.6%. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, has significantly raised South Korea's economic growth outlook for this year to 2.6%, a steep rise from the previous 1.7% estimate. This notable upward revision is largely driven by the country's extraordinarily robust semiconductor exports amidst the ongoing global artificial intelligence boom. In May alone, South Korea's outbound shipments of memory chips soared by a staggering 169.4% year-on-year, securely riding a highly profitable semiconductor supercycle. While the high-tech industry currently maintains solid export figures, the OECD projected a slightly more conservative growth rate of 1.9% for 2027. Additionally, the international organization strongly suggested phasing out temporary fuel price caps to systematically ease persistent domestic inflationary pressures. Vocabulary: steep. Adjective: 가파른, 급격한. There has been a steep decline in the overall unemployment rate this year. Revision. Noun: 수정, 상, 하향 조정. The document naturally requires some minor revisions before its final publishing. Extraordinarily. Adverb: 엄청나게, 유별나게. The weather was extraordinarily cold for a midsummer evening. Robust. Adjective: 탄탄한, 튼튼한. The developing country boasts a remarkably robust and stable financial system. Outbound. Adjective: 해외로 향하는, 수출해. The steady volume of outbound international tourism has increased dramatically. Soar. Verb: 급등하다, 치솟다. The tech company's stock prices soared immediately after the successful product launch. Conservative. Adjective: 보수적인, 조심스러운. The financial analyst made a fairly conservative estimate regarding next year's profits. Phase out. 동사구: 단기적으로 폐지하다. The outdated software system will be gradually phased out over the next few months. Persistent. Adjective: 끈질긴, 지속적인. He unfortunately suffered from a highly persistent cough for several weeks. Inflationary. Adjective: inflation이, 물가 인상이. The central bank raised interest rates repeatedly to effectively control inflationary pressure. 시사용어 해설. Supercycle. 원자재나 반도체 등 특정 산업 분야에서 장기적으로 수요가 폭발하며 가격이 오르고 초호황이 수년간 지속되는 거시경제적 현상을 뜻한다. 5.2. President Lee Jae-myung attends G7 summit. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung officially attended the Group of Seven G7 summit in Evian-les-Bains, France, participating as an invited guest for the second consecutive year. During the high-profile multilateral gathering, Lee engaged in highly productive bilateral talks with key global leaders, including Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The intensive discussions primarily focused on substantially expanding mutual cooperation across critical sectors such as defense manufacturing, advanced technology, and regional security. Notably, Lee utilized the diplomatic platform to actively promote South Korea's formidable defense capabilities, strategically aiming to secure Canada's lucrative $8 billion submarine acquisition project. The recurring invitations to the exclusive summit strongly reflect the international community's growing trust and elevated expectations for South Korea's global role. Vocabulary: consecutive. Adjective: 연속적인, 연이은. The baseball team impressively won the national championship for 3 consecutive years. High profile. Adjective: 세간의 이목을 끄는. The court case was a high-profile trial that attracted immense media attention. Multilateral. Adjective: 다자간의, 다국적인. Environmental protection strictly requires multilateral cooperation among all developed nations. Bilateral. Adjective: 양자간의, 쌍방의. The 2 neighboring countries finally signed a comprehensive bilateral trade agreement. Productive. Adjective: 생산적인, 유익한. We had a highly productive meeting where we brilliantly solved several major issues. Formidable. Adjective: 각오할 만한, 만만치 않은. The defending champion proved to be a genuinely formidable opponent in the final match. Capability. Noun. 능력, 역량. The military has drastically upgraded its long-range missile strike capability. Strategically. Adverb: 전략적으로.
The new retail stores were strategically located near busy major subway stations. Lucrative. Adjective. 수익성이 좋은. 돈이 되는. Real estate investment can often be an extremely lucrative business endeavor. Acquisition. Noun. 인수. 획득. 도입. The swift acquisition of the rival company completely doubled their overall market share. 시사용어 해설. Bilateral talks. 양자회담. 다수의 국가가 모인 다자회의. Multilateral meeting. 속에서 특별히 이해관계가 맞는 두 국가의 정상이나 대표가 따로 만나 깊이 있게 국익을 논의하는 1대1 회담을 뜻한다.
5.3. South Korea's local elections mark highest early voting turnout. South Korea is currently holding its 9th nationwide local elections, accompanied by highly contested by-elections for several vacant National Assembly seats. This significant electoral event is widely viewed as the first crucial nationwide test for President Lee Jae-myung's administration since he boldly took office following the dramatic impeachment of his predecessor. The ruling Democratic Party frames the vote as a pivotal opportunity to securely consolidate support, whereas the main opposition portrays it as a necessary referendum on the current leadership. Demonstrating immense public engagement, the two-day early voting period concluded with a record-breaking turnout of 23.51%. This remarkable participation marks the absolute highest rate ever recorded in local elections since the early voting system was formally introduced in 2014. Vocabulary. Accompany. Verb. 동반하다, 동행하다. The severe thunderstorm was accompanied by dangerously heavy rainfall. Contested. Adjective. 논쟁이 되는, 경쟁이 치열한. It was a highly contested election with extremely tight polling numbers. By-election. Noun. 보궐선거. A special by-election was swiftly held to replace the abruptly resigning mayor. Impeachment. Noun. 탄핵, 고발. The devastating scandal ultimately led to the sudden impeachment of the president. Pivotal. Adjective. 중추적인, 핵심적인. Education plays a truly pivotal role in shaping a child's successful future. Consolidate. Verb. 굳히다, 통합하다. The ruling party strictly needs to consolidate its diverse voter base before the election. Portray. Verb. 묘사하다, 그리다. The fascinating novel accurately portrays the extreme hardships of early immigrant life. Referendum. Noun. 국민투표, 총선거. The controversial government decided to hold a national referendum on the independence issue. Engagement. Noun. 참여, 관여, 약혼. Civic engagement is absolutely essential for maintaining a healthy, functioning democracy. Turnout. Noun. 투표율, 참석자 수. The event organizers were genuinely surprised by the massive turnout for the charity concert. 6. CGTN 6-1. Iran and U.S. set for critical peace talks in Switzerland. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi formally announced that a critical new round of negotiations between the United States and Iran will commence in Switzerland on Friday. The upcoming diplomatic talks will directly follow a first-phase Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, that comprehensively covers a ceasefire, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and the lifting of maritime blockades. Araghchi forcefully stressed that Tehran considers a complete, unequivocal end to the conflict in Lebanon as a strict precondition for broader regional de-escalation. He explicitly warned that any continued presence or aggression by Israeli forces on Lebanese territory would be viewed as a direct breach of the fragile agreement. Assuming successful completion of the initial terms, a subsequent second phase of negotiations will later focus intricately on Iran's controversial nuclear program. Vocabulary. Commence. Verb. 시작되다, 개시하다. The formal opening ceremony will commence exactly at noon. Memorandum. Noun. 각서. Memo. The two CEOs proudly signed a memorandum to officially merge their rival companies. Maritime. Adjective. 바다이, 해양이. The island country boasts a remarkably rich and diverse maritime history. Unequivocal. Adjective. 명백한, 모호하지 않은. The Prime Minister gave an unequivocal guarantee that taxes would definitely not rise. Precondition. Noun. 전제 조건.
Having a valid visa is an absolute precondition for international travel to that country. De-escalation. Noun. 긴장 완화. 단기적 축소. The UN forcefully called for an immediate de-escalation of the border violence. Explicitly. Adverb. 명백하게. 분명하게. The signed contract explicitly states that late refunds are strictly not allowed. Aggression. Noun. 공격성. 침략. The unprovoked military aggression was universally condemned by the international community. Breach. Noun. 위반. 파기. Failing to pay the monthly rent is a clear breach of the legal lease agreement. Subsequent. Adjective. 그 다음이. 차후이. The initial mistake tragically led to a series of disastrous subsequent events. 시사용어 해설. MOU. Memorandum of Understanding. 양해각서. 정식으로 법적 구속력을 갖는 본 계약을 맺기 전에 양측이 원칙적으로 합의한 내용을 문서화해두는 예비 계약. 국가 간 외교나 기업 간 대형 거래의 첫 단추로 자주 쓰인다.
Number 6. 2. China's vision for a new era of global human rights governance. China has officially released its National Human Rights Action Plan for 2026-2030, articulating a distinctly new paradigm for global human rights governance. The comprehensive document strongly asserts that traditional, Western-centric frameworks are currently facing unprecedented challenges and require urgent modernization. China firmly promotes the concept of building a community with a shared future for humanity, inherently linking human rights directly to economic development, regional security, and true multilateralism. Furthermore, the updated plan explicitly includes strategic guidelines for managing emerging human rights issues caused by disruptive technology such as artificial intelligence and digital data. Chinese officials emphasize that international solidarity, free from bloc confrontation or zero-sum games, is absolutely essential to protect humanity's shared developmental values. Vocabulary. Articulate. Verb. 분명히 표현하다. The skilled politician managed to brilliantly articulate his complex vision for the future. Paradigm. Noun. Paradigm. 인식체계. The discovery of penicillin created a massive shift in the medical paradigm. Assert. Verb. 주장하다. 확고히하다. The defense attorney confidently asserted that the crucial evidence was entirely fabricated. Unprecedented. Adjective. 전례 없는. 유례 없는. The tech industry experienced an unprecedented level of rapid growth this decade. Inherently. Adverb. 선천적으로. 본질적으로. Skydiving is an inherently dangerous sport that requires extensive safety training. Multilateralism. Noun. 다자주의. The UN strongly advocates for multilateralism to resolve complex international conflicts peaceably. Disruptive. Adjective. 파괴적인. 혁신적인. Artificial intelligence is widely considered a highly disruptive technology in modern business. Solidarity. Noun. 연대. 결속. The factory workers showed remarkable solidarity during the prolonged labor strike. Confrontation. Noun. 대치. 대립. The bitter diplomatic dispute tragically ended in a violent military confrontation. Zero-sum. Adjective. zero-sum이. 한쪽의 이득이 다른 쪽의 손실이 되는. Trade negotiations should never be treated as a simple zero-sum game. 시사용어 해설. Zero-sum game. zero-sum game. 승자의 득점과 패자의 실점을 합치면 0, 0가 된다는 게임 이론. 누군가 이익을 보면 반드시 누군가는 손해를 보게 되는 치열한 경쟁 상태를 뜻하며 외교에서는 상호 윈윈, 윈윈이 불가능한 대립 구도를 비판할 때 자주 쓰인다. 6-3 South. South resonance at the Shanghai International Film Festival. The Shanghai International Film Festival has significantly expanded its cooperative map far beyond the traditional Euro-American industrial axis. This year's prestigious event heavily spotlighted compelling cinema from the global south, warmly welcoming unprecedented submissions from regions across the Middle East, Latin America, and Africa. Astonishingly, the festival received over 4,100 film submissions from 125 different countries, including landmark, first-time entries from nations like Ghana and Mozambique. Critics enthusiastically argue that this shift represents far more than just mere geographic expansion. It signifies a profound cultural logic. It vividly illustrates a South-South resonance, where nations sharing similar developmental backgrounds connect deeply through the universal, unifying language of cinema, thereby forging a brand new global cultural map. Vocabulary. Axis. Noun. 축. 중심선. The Earth rotates continuously on its invisible axis once every 24 hours. Prestigious. Adjective. 권위 있는, 명망 있는. The scientist won a highly prestigious international award for her brilliant research. Compelling. Adjective. 설득력 있는, 눈을 뗄 수 없는. The lawyer presented a deeply compelling argument that ultimately swayed the jury. Submission. Noun. 제출, 출품작. The strict deadline for the final essay submission is next Friday afternoon. Landmark. Noun. 획기적인 사건, landmark. The passing of the Civil Rights Bill was a true landmark in American history. Mere. Adjective. 단지, 에 불과한. The complicated project took a mere 2 weeks to be successfully completed. Signify. Verb. 의미하다, 나타내다. The sudden dark clouds usually signify that an intense thunderstorm is approaching. Profound. Adjective. 엄청난, 심오한. The wise philosopher had a profound understanding of complex human nature. Resonance. Noun. 공명, 울림, 공감. The powerful poem has a deep emotional resonance for anyone who has experienced loss. Forge. Verb. 구축하다, 위조하다. The two former enemies managed to successfully forge a strong, lasting alliance. 시사용어 해설. Global South. Global South. 주로 지구의 남반구나 북반구 저위도에 위치한 아프리카, 아시아, 중남미의 신흥국 및 개발도상국들을 통틀어 일컫는 외교 경제적 용어이다. 선진국 중심의 북반구, Global North에 대비되는 개념으로 자주 쓰인다. 7. NHK World Japan. 7.1. Japan's population plummets by 3 million in 5 years. Japan's total population has shockingly plummeted by 3 million over the past 5 years, marking the absolute largest demographic drop since official records began in 1920. The government recently released grim figures from its latest 5-yearly census, revealing that the number of residents has shrunk dramatically to approximately 123 million. A major underlying reason for this sharp, alarming decline is historically low birth rates, with only about 700,000 births recorded in the year 2025. Although the Japanese government has introduced comprehensive countermeasures, such as vastly expanded child allowances and heavily subsidized education, these policies have unfortunately seen very little success. Consequently, Japan's rapidly graying population is putting a tremendous, unsustainable strain on national healthcare systems, pensions, and the dwindling labor force. Vocabulary. Plummet. Verb. 급락하다, 곤두박질치다. The tech company's stock prices plummeted sharply following the disastrous earnings report. Demographic. Adjective. 인구 통계하게. The extensive survey collected detailed demographic information from every household. Census. Noun. 인구조사. The national census is meticulously conducted every 10 years to perfectly track population changes. Shrink. Verb. 줄어들다, 축소되다. The company's total market share rapidly shrank due to fierce global competition. Underlying. Adjective. 근본적인, 밑에 있는. We need to fully understand the underlying causes of this complex social problem. Comprehensive. Adjective. 포괄적인, 종합적인. The experienced doctor carefully gave her a completely comprehensive medical examination. Allowance. Noun. 수당, 용돈. The local government provides a small monthly housing allowance for low-income families. Subsidize. Verb. 보조금을 주다. The city heavily subsidizes its public transportation to intentionally keep ticket fares low. Graying. Adjective. 고령화되는, 백발이 되어가는. The graying society inevitably faces unique and highly challenging economic difficulties. Tremendous. Adjective. 엄청난, 막대한. Building the massive suspension bridge required a truly tremendous amount of public funding. 시사용어 해설. 센세. 인구주택 총조사. 국가가 전체 인구 수, 연령, 성별, 직업, 주거 형태 등의 현황을 정확히 파악하기 위해
국가주도로 정기적으로 실시하는 대규모 기본 통계조사이다.
7-2. Cyberdyne's wearable cyborg HAL featured for disaster prevention. Cyberdyne's groundbreaking efforts in disaster prevention, specifically utilizing the wearable cyborg technology known as HAL, will be prominently featured on NHK World-Japan. The broadcast is scheduled to extensively showcase practical examples of HAL's innovative application in demanding disaster response and high-risk rescue operations. Recently, a specialized firefighting model based on the HAL lumbar type was officially selected by Japan's Fire and Disaster Management Agency for rigorous field verification. This highly advanced cybernetics technology is fundamentally designed to significantly reduce the heavy physical strain on rescue workers and vastly improve overall safety in grueling field environments. By actively applying these robotic systems to critical social infrastructure, Cyberdyne aims to successfully contribute to the realization of a much safer and highly sustainable society. Vocabulary: groundbreaking. Adjective: 획기적인, 신기원을 이룬. The scientists recently published a groundbreaking study on renewable energy sources. Prominently. Adverb: 눈에 띄게, 두드러지게. The warning sign was displayed prominently right near the dangerous edge. Extensively. Adverb: 널리, 광범위하게. The diligent researcher traveled extensively across the continent to carefully gather rare data. Demanding. Adjective: 힘든, 요구가 많은. Being a professional firefighter is an incredibly physically demanding career. Verification. Noun: 확인, 검증. The bank strictly requires signature verification before officially processing the large transaction. Fundamental. Adjective: 근본적인, 필수적인. A solid education is a fundamental human right that everyone should rightfully possess. Strain. Noun: 부담, 압박, 긴장. The rapid population growth placed a massive strain on the city's limited resources. Grueling. Adjective: 녹초로 만드는, 가혹한. The marathon runners bravely endured a distinctly grueling race under the blazing sun. Realization. Noun: 실현, 깨달음. The successful realization of the ambitious project took more than 10 arduous years. Sustainable. Adjective: 지속 가능한. Wind and solar power are widely considered excellent forms of sustainable energy. 시사융화 해설, social infrastructure, 사회 인프라, 사회 기반 시설, 도로, 철도, 항만, 통신망은 물론 소방, 경찰, 병원 등 국가와 사회가 원활하게 작동하고 유지되기 위해 필수적으로 갖추어져야 하는 공공시설 및 시스템을 통틀어 말한다.
Number 7. 3. NHK World Japan begins round-the-clock shortwave broadcasts for Iran. In direct response to the severely escalating military conflict involving the United States, Israel, and Iran, NHK has quickly initiated temporary, round-the-clock shortwave radio transmissions specifically targeting the Middle East. This critical emergency measure was swiftly implemented because intense local attacks have caused vital internet connectivity and international telephone services in Iran to become highly unstable. As an international public service media outlet, NHK recognized an urgent, undeniable duty to provide continuous, essential safety information to Japanese nationals residing or traveling in the perilous region. The drastically expanded 24-hour broadcast schedule features simultaneous transmissions of domestic news, alongside specialized travel advisories issued directly by Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This robust analog shortwave broadcast effectively serves as a crucial informational lifeline when modern digital communication networks inexplicably fail. Vocabulary: escalate. Verb: 확대되다, 고조되다. The minor verbal argument quickly escalated into a violent physical fight. Initiate. Verb: 시작하다, 개시하다. The hospital promptly initiated a new strict hygiene protocol to prevent nasty infections. Round the clock. Adjective: 24시간 내내, 끊임없는. The critically ill patient required intensive round-the-clock medical care. Connectivity. Noun: 연결성, 접속. The rural area severely suffers from extremely poor internet connectivity. Unstable. Adjective: 불안정한. The chemical compound is highly unstable and could easily explode if deeply shaken. Perilous. Adjective:
아주 위험한. The brave explorers embarked on a truly perilous journey across the frozen, barren wasteland. Simultaneous. Adjective. 동시에. The grand event was broadcast with simultaneous translations in 6 different languages. Advisory. Noun. 경보, 주의보. The government issued an urgent travel advisory, warning citizens strictly against visiting the country. Lifeline. Noun. 생명선, 구명줄. The monthly government subsidy was a crucial lifeline for the desperately struggling family. Inexplicably. Adverb. 불가해하게, 설명할 수 없게. The vital computer screen inexplicably went totally blank during the critical presentation. 시사 용어 해설. Shortwave radio, 단파 라디오 방송. 전파가 지구의 전리층에 반사되어 수천 킬로미터 밖에 아주 먼 국가까지 도달할 수 있는 특성을 가진 라디오 방송. 인터넷이나 위성통신이 끊긴 재난이나 전쟁 상황에서도 정보를 전달할 수 있는 최후의 수단이다.
8. Al Jazeera. 8-1. U.S. Iran to sign a peace deal on Friday. Iran and the United States have officially agreed to a comprehensive Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, aimed at ending more than 100 grueling days of warfare. Effectively mediated by Pakistan and Qatar, this historic peace deal is firmly scheduled to be formally signed in Geneva, Switzerland, this coming Friday. A pivotal component of the agreement is the permanent and immediate cessation of military hostilities on all fronts, strictly including the embattled nation of Lebanon. Furthermore, Tehran confidently stated that the stifling U.S. naval blockade on its ports will be lifted completely and immediately, allowing normal trade to resume. In exchange, U.S. President Donald Trump announced that the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz will finally reopen to all international shipping, which has already provided significant relief to global energy markets. Vocabulary. Mediate. Verb. 중재하다. 조정하다. The UN stepped in to effectively mediate the tense border dispute between the two nations. Warfare. Noun. 전쟁. 교전 상태. Modern warfare heavily relies on advanced technology and precise cyber capabilities. Pivotal. Adjective. 중추적인. 핵심적인. Thorough research played a truly pivotal role in the rapid development of the new vaccine. Cessation. Noun. 중단. 중지. The immediate cessation of heavy bombing allowed humanitarian aid to finally reach the civilians. Hostility. Noun. 적대감. 적대행위. Both nations must actively work hard to reduce the long-standing hostility and build lasting trust. Embattled. Adjective. 교전 중인. 궁지에 몰린. The intensely embattled CEO faces multiple serious lawsuits from angry shareholders. Stifling. Adjective. 숨막히는. 답답한. The poorly ventilated tiny room was uncomfortably hot and heavily stifling. Blockade. Noun. 봉쇄. The aggressive military forcefully imposed a strict naval blockade to starve the rebel forces. Resume. Verb. 재기하다. 다시 시작하다. The temporarily suspended flights will safely resume tomorrow morning if the bad weather clears. Relief. Noun. 안도. 구호. 완화. Taking the prescribed painkillers provided instant relief from his excruciating backache. 시사용어 해설. Strait of Hormuz. 호르무즈 해협. 중동의 페르시아만과 오만만을 연결하는 매우 좁은 바닷길. 전 세계 원유 물동량이 약 20% 이상이 이곳을 통과하기 때문에 이 해협이 봉쇄되면 전 세계 석유 가격이 폭등하는 등 글로벌 경제에 치명적인 타격을 입힌다.
8.2. UK court rules prescribing Palestine action as terrorist group is lawful. Britain's highly respected Court of Appeal has decisively ruled that the government's strict prescription of the activist group Palestine Action as a terrorist organization was entirely lawful. This landmark ruling essentially overturns a previous High Court decision that had initially deemed the controversial ban completely unlawful and highly disproportionate. The Chief Justice firmly concluded in her extensive remarks that the group's increasingly aggressive conduct clearly went far beyond the boundaries of nonviolent, peaceful direct action. Conversely, the passionate co-founder of Palestine Action fiercely condemned the final ruling as an extreme, unjustified attack on free speech and the fundamental democratic right to protest. Vowing to fight back, the activist group explicitly plans to vigorously escalate their ongoing legal battle to the Supreme Court and the European Court of Human Rights. Vocabulary. Decisively. Adverb. 단호하게, 결정적으로. The skilled general acted decisively to win the difficult battle before winter arrived. Proscription. Noun. 법적 금지, 추방. The strict proscription of the dangerous chemical was heavily enforced by the health ministry. Lawful. Adjective. 합법적인, 적법한. The police officers must always ensure that their necessary actions are entirely lawful. Overturn. Verb. 판결 등을 뒤집다, 번복시키다. The Supreme Court ultimately chose to overturn the flawed lower court's hasty decision. Disproportionate. Adjective. 불균형에, 어울리지 않는. The harsh punishment was deemed highly disproportionate to the incredibly minor crime committed. Aggressive. Adjective. 공격적인, 적극적인. The company's highly aggressive marketing strategy successfully drove up their total sales. Conduct. Noun. 행위, 행동. The student was highly praised by his teachers for his consistently excellent conduct. Conversely. Adverb. 반대로, 역으로. Some enjoy the cold winter. Conversely, others heavily prefer the hot summer. Condemn. Verb. 비난하다, 규탄하다. The global international community strongly condemned the sudden, unprovoked military attack. Escalate. Verb. 상황을 악화시키다, 확대하다. We definitely shouldn't escalate this minor disagreement into a massive, bitter feud. 시사 용어 해설. Proscribe. 금지하다, 불법화하다. 영국 법률 용어로 국가가 특정 테러단체나 반사회적 조직을 법적으로 명시하여 그 단체에 속하거나 지원하는 모든 활동을 형사처벌 대상으로 삼는 매우 강력한 조치를 뜻한다.
8.3. Iranians rally behind their team at World Cup amid political schisms. During their intense opening match against New Zealand in Los Angeles, Iran's national football team, widely known as Team Melli, received thunderous cheers from thousands of passionate supporters. Interestingly, the highly anticipated World Cup fixture thoroughly exposed deep political schisms among the large Iranian diaspora residing in the host city. The massive crowds were visibly divided, with some fiercely expressing anti-regime sentiments, while others focused purely on patriotic sports enthusiasm. However, as the thrilling game progressed, the inherently unifying power of football successfully managed to upstage the complex underlying political ideologies. Ultimately, the high-stakes sporting event beautifully fostered a rare, powerful moment of communal solidarity among Iranians abroad, momentarily transcending their bitter domestic disputes. Vocabulary. Thunderous. Adjective. 우레와 같은, 열렬한. The spectacular performance appropriately received a thunderous round of heartfelt applause. Schism. Noun. 분열, 파벌. A bitter ideological schism deeply divided the previously united political party. Diaspora. Noun. 디아스포라, 고국을 떠나 흩어져 사는 사람들. The large Irish diaspora retains very strong cultural ties to their native homeland. Sentiment. Noun. 정서, 감정. There is a growing public sentiment actively favoring strict environmental protection. Patriotic. Adjective. 애국적인. The enthusiastic crowd proudly waved flags and joyfully sang patriotic national songs. Inherently. Adverb. 본질적으로, 선천적으로. Exploring unknown deep caves is an inherently dangerous and unpredictable activity.
upstage. verb. 관심, 이목을 가로채다, 압도하다. The talented young actor managed to completely upstage the older veteran star. ideology. noun. 이념, ideology. The radical group violently promotes a highly dangerous and extreme political ideology. foster. verb. 조성하다, 촉진하다. The school strictly aims to foster a warm, supportive learning environment for everyone. transcend. verb. 초월하다, 뛰어넘다. True, genuine love can easily transcend artificial boundaries of race and nationality.
9. CBC Canada 9-1. Electrical incident at Sea Water Park sends 12 children to hospital. An unexpected and highly alarming electrical mishap at Cultus Lake Water Park in British Columbia sent 12 children straight to the hospital with unspecified injuries. The terrifying incident occurred precisely while a large group of grade 6 and 7 students were excitedly lining up for a popular waterslide attraction. Local police have explicitly stated that criminality is not currently suspected, though they are thoroughly probing all possible avenues to determine the exact technical cause. Although 2 injured youths were swiftly transported by emergency air ambulance, medical authorities confirmed with relief that none of the injuries were life-threatening. The water park immediately remains closed indefinitely and is fully cooperating with investigators from Technical Safety BC to completely ensure public safety before any potential reopening. Vocabulary. Unexpected. Adjective. 예기치 않은. 뜻밖의. We were completely surprised when we had an unexpected visitor arrive last night. Mishap. Noun. 작은 사고. 불상사. A minor mechanical mishap unfortunately caused the commuter train to be delayed. Unspecified. Adjective. 명시되지 않은. 불특정한. The important meeting was indefinitely postponed to an unspecified future date. Precisely. Adverb. 정확히. 꼭. The intricate mechanical bomb is timed to explode precisely at midnight. Explicitly. Adverb. 명백하게. 명시적으로. The teacher explicitly instructed the students not to use their mobile phones. Criminality. Noun. 범죄성. 범죄 행위. The thorough detectives found absolutely no evidence of criminality at the chaotic scene. Probe. Verb. 철저히 조사하다. 캐묻다. Investigative journalists are deeply probing into the corrupt politician's dark past. Avenue. Noun. 수단. 조사의 방법. 방향. 길. We must creatively explore every possible avenue to finally solve this complex problem. Life-threatening. Adjective. 생명을 위협하는. The emergency surgery is risky, but the disease itself is thankfully not life-threatening. Indefinitely. Adverb. 무기한으로. The popular outdoor concert has been officially postponed indefinitely due to the severe storm. 치사용어 해설. Technical Safety Authority. 기술안전청. 놀이기구, 승강기, 전기시설, 보일러 등 기계 및 전기 장비의 안전 표준을 관리하고 사고 발생 시 원인을 전문적으로 규명하는 정부 산하의 규제 및 감독기관이다. 9.2. Prime Minister Mark Carney announces new sanctions against Russia. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has forcefully announced a strict new package of sweeping economic sanctions against Russia amid the ongoing, devastating war in Ukraine. This vital announcement was strategically made following a highly significant bilateral meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the G7 summit in France. The carefully targeted sanctions aim to effectively cripple the Russian war machine by directly hitting 162 individuals, corporate entities, and vessels. Specifically, the punitive measures focus intently on completely disrupting Moscow's elusive shadow fleet, lucrative energy revenues, and critical defense manufacturing industry. Canada has previously provided billions of dollars in essential military assistance to Ukraine, loudly reaffirming its unwavering, steadfast commitment to supporting democratic sovereignty against illegal aggression. Vocabulary. Sweeping. Adjective. 전면적인, 광범위한. The newly elected government enacted several sweeping changes to the national tax code. Bilateral. Adjective. 양자간에, 쌍방에. The two hostile nations finally managed to sign a peaceful bilateral trade agreement. Cripple. Verb. 마비시키다, 심각한 타격을 주다. A massive, unexpected cyber attack could severely cripple the entire banking system. Entity. Noun. 독립체, 단체, 기업. The newly formed corporation operates as a completely separate legal entity. Punitive. Adjective. 징벌적인, 가혹한. The angry judge imposed incredibly severe punitive damages on the negligent company. Disrupt. Verb. 방해하다, 지장을 주다. Heavy snowfall will likely disrupt all major train services tomorrow morning. Elusive. Adjective. 찾기 힘든, 교묘하게 피하는. The highly skilled thief remained completely elusive to the frustrated local police. Revenue. Noun. 수익, 세입. The company reported a significant increase in its annual advertising revenue. Unwavering. Adjective. 흔들림 없는, 확고한. The loyal soldier showed an unwavering dedication to his strict military duties. Sovereignty. Noun. 주권, 독립국권. Every independent nation possesses the absolute right to fiercely defend its sovereignty. 시사용어 해설. 섀도우 플릿, 그림자 선박. 서방 국가들의 강력한 경제 제재나 감시를 피하기 위해 선박의 이름이나 소속 국가, 즉 선적을 속이고 추적 장치를 끈 채로 원유나 금수 품목을 몰래 실어 나르는 불법 유조선이나 화물선 무리를 지칭한다.
9.3. Kellogg Creek wildfire spreads rapidly near Kamloops. A dangerously aggressive wildfire, recently named the Kellogg Creek Fire, is currently spreading at a rapid pace near Kamloops, British Columbia. First discovered on Tuesday morning, the blaze quickly exploded in size, covering an estimated 130 hectares of dry forest within just a few short hours. In response to the escalating immediate threat, local authorities have swiftly issued a mandatory evacuation order for at least one nearby property. Firefighting crews, extensively supported by aerial bombers and helicopters, are frantically battling the fierce flames, but the fire sadly remains completely out of control. Officials strongly urge all local residents to remain highly vigilant, warning of an elevated, persistent wildfire risk throughout the unusually hot summer season. Vocabulary. Aggressive. Adjective. 긴격적인. 질병이나 재난이 맹렬한. The exceptionally aggressive form of cancer required immediate intensive medical treatment. Rapid. Adjective. 빠른. 신속한. The country has experienced truly rapid economic growth over the last decade. Blaze. Noun. 화재. 불길. It boldly took 50 brave firefighters to eventually extinguish the massive blaze. Mandatory. Adjective. 의무적인. 강제. Wearing securely fastened seatbelts is absolutely mandatory for all passengers in the car. Evacuation. Noun. 대피. 피난. The sudden earthquake forced an immediate total evacuation of the entire building. Extensively. Adverb. 널리. 광범위하게. The diligent researcher traveled extensively across the continent to carefully gather rare data. Frantically. Adverb. 미친 듯이. 필사적으로. She searched frantically through her messy purse to find her missing car keys. Out of control. 형용사구. 통제할 수 없는. The wildly spinning car unfortunately spun completely out of control on the icy, slippery road. Vigilant. Adjective. 바짝 경계하는. 방심하지 않는. Security guards must always remain completely vigilant against any potential hidden threats. Elevated. Adjective. 높아진. 상승한. The doctor warned him about his dangerously elevated blood pressure levels. Number 10. DD India. Number 1. PM Modi engages with global leaders at the G7 summit in France. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi proudly arrived in Evian, France, to actively participate in the 52nd G7 summit, marking India's notable 13th appearance as an invited partner nation. He was warmly and graciously welcomed by French President Emmanuel Macron before confidently joining global leaders for the highly anticipated traditional family photograph. During the high-stakes event, Modi held strategic, brief discussions with prominent leaders like U.S. President Donald Trump, focusing sharply on economic growth,
artificial intelligence, and resilient global supply chains. The core summit sessions explicitly aim to thoroughly address pressing global challenges, particularly emphasizing renewed international solidarity and sustainable balanced development. India's remarkably active participation clearly reflects its rapidly growing diplomatic role in powerfully championing the priorities and deep concerns of the developing global South. Vocabulary. Participate. Verb. 참여하다, 참가하다. She happily decided to participate in the local charity marathon next weekend. Notable. Adjective. 주목할 만한, 유명한. The scientist has made several truly notable contributions to the field of physics. Graciously. Adverb. 우아하게, 친절하게. The elegant host graciously welcomed all the distinguished guests into her beautiful home. High stakes. Adjective. 판돈이 높은, 중대한. The clever diplomats engaged in a highly tense, high-stakes negotiation to avoid a war. Prominent. Adjective. 저명한, 눈에 띄는. He is a deeply respected and prominent author known for his historical novels. Resilient. Adjective. 회복력 있는, 탄력적인. The local economy proved to be highly resilient even after the devastating financial crisis. Explicitly. Adverb. 명백하게, 분명하게. The teacher explicitly instructed the young students not to use their mobile phones. Pressing. Adjective. 긴급한, 절박한. Reversing climate change is arguably the most pressing environmental issue of our current time. Solidarity. Noun. 연대, 결속. The factory workers showed remarkable solidarity by firmly standing together during the strike. Champion. Verb. 옹호하다, 위해 싸우다. She has passionately and consistently championed the fundamental rights of marginalized minorities. 시사용어 해설. Global South, 글로벌 사우스. 주로 북반구 저위도나 남반구에 위치한 아프리카, 아시아, 중남미의 신흥국 및 개발도상국들을 통틀어 일컫는 용어. 최근 선진국 클럽인 G7 등에 대비되어 국제사회에서 새로운 세력으로 그 목소리를 키우고 있다. 10.2. PM Modi and President El-Sisi reaffirm India-Egypt friendship. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held a highly productive meeting on the sidelines of the G7 summit, strongly reaffirming their nation's historic friendship. The deeply rooted relationship between India and Egypt, which originally flourished during the post-colonial non-aligned movement era, has recently expanded into a robust strategic partnership. During their cordial interaction, the two visionary leaders discussed vast opportunities for expanding bilateral cooperation, specifically in renewable energy, digital technologies, and defense manufacturing. With their annual trade volume recently crossing a remarkable $7 billion, both nations are actively capitalizing on their growing mutual economic strengths. Furthermore, the meeting emphatically highlighted their shared commitment to powerfully amplifying the collective voice of the Global South on pressing issues like food security and climate change. Vocabulary. Reaffirm. Verb. 재확인하다. The two allied countries signed a pact to officially reaffirm their strong military alliance. Flourish. Verb. 번창하다, 만개하다. The small local business began to truly flourish after launching a clever new marketing campaign. Robust. Adjective. 탄탄한, 튼튼한. The rapidly developing country boasts a remarkably robust and stable financial system. Cordial. Adjective. 다정한, 화기애애한. The visiting diplomats received a very cordial and respectful welcome from the gracious host. Visionary. Adjective. 선구적인, 예지력 있는. He was a truly visionary leader who could clearly foresee the technological future. Bilateral. Adjective. 양자간에, 쌍방에. The two neighboring nations finally managed to sign a comprehensive bilateral trade agreement. Capitalize on. 동사구. 을 이용하다, 기회로 삼다. The small company aims to capitalize on the rapidly growing trend of remote working. Mutual. Adjective. 상호의, 서로의. True friendship is always deeply based on absolute mutual trust and profound respect. Emphatically. Adverb. 단호하게, 강조하여. The innocent suspect emphatically denied any involvement whatsoever in the terrible crime. Amplify. Verb. 증폭시키다, 더 키우다.
Using a powerful microphone will greatly amplify the quiet speaker's gentle voice. 시사용어 해설. Non-aligned movement. 비동맹 운동. NAM. 냉전 시대의 미국 중심의 자본주의 진영이나 소련 중심의 공산주의 진영 어디에도 속하지 않고 제3세계 국가들이 모여 독자적이고 중립적인 노선을 걷고자 결성한 국제 정치 연합체이다.
10.3. India's wholesale inflation climbs to 9.68% in May. According to freshly released provisional government data, India's wholesale inflation astonishingly accelerated to 9.68% in May 2026, marking a significant, worrying leap from 8.26% in April. This stark economic metric was calculated alongside a newly revamped Wholesale Price Index, WPI series, designed to better reflect modern market realities. The primary driver behind this deeply troubling inflationary surge is the massive spike in basic fuel and power prices, which collectively soared by an alarming margin of more than 30%. Such a steep and abrupt increase in vital raw production costs poses a severe challenge to the nation's domestic manufacturing sectors. Consequently, financial experts warn that this persistent price pressure will likely delay any anticipated interest rate cuts by the central bank, heavily dampening overall business investment sentiment. Vocabulary. Provisional. Adjective. 임시의, 잠정적인. The organizing committee published a provisional schedule that might completely change later. Accelerate. Verb. 가속화하다, 속도를 높이다. The sports car can incredibly accelerate from 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds. Stark. Adjective. 극명한, 냉혹한. There is a stark contrast between the incredibly rich and the desperately poor in this city. Revamp. Verb. 개편하다, 수리하다. The company smartly decided to totally revamp its outdated, ugly website design. Primary. Adjective. 주요한, 첫째의. His absolute primary motivation for taking the demanding job was the extremely high salary. Surge. Noun. 급증, 폭등. There has been a sudden, massive surge in global demand for cheap electric vehicles. Spike. Noun. 가격의 급등, 뾰족한 것. The sudden spike in oil prices directly caused the airline ticket costs to rise. Abrupt. Adjective. 갑작스러운, 돌연한. The boring meeting came to an unusually abrupt and awkward end when the alarm sounded. Persistent. Adjective. 끈질긴, 지속적인. He unfortunately suffered from a highly persistent and annoying cough for several weeks. Dampen. Verb. 활력, 열기를 꺾다, 축축하게 하다. The continuous, heavy rain completely managed to dampen our cheerful holiday spirits. 시사 용어 해설. 홀세일 프라이스 인덱스, WPI, 도매 물가 지수. 소비자가 마트에서 사는 소매 물가가 아니라 기업과 기업 간에 대량으로 거래되는 원자재나 상품의 도매 가격 변동을 측정하는 지수. 생산자의 원가 부담을 보여주기 때문에 향후 소비자 물가가 오를 것임을 예측하는 선행지표 역할을 한다.